another video feedback to the fourth discussion of Unit 1. This was a very low-key discussion. I just wanted to share with you how I was able to use visual communication and infographics, the topic of Unit 1, to help me communicate my doctoral thesis, like part of my doctoral thesis, the philosophical part of it, at least. And I wanted to share with you because what is in my mind and what makes sense to me doesn't necessarily mean that it's correct or I may be missing lots of things. So thank you so much for being there and engaging with this discussion with me. So that's why I started the discussion with this passage from Hamlet, because I remember that we use this saying a lot in Brazil, and I also found very appropriate that with this 21st century life we have now, with like our learning, teaching, daily lives, and technology everywhere, we are really missing and not seeing things anymore. And I don't know if you know, but there is a saying that says that like technology that has become transparent. So the technology has become so natural, like and part of the ordinary, that we don't even notice it anymore. And that's where the danger lies, because we need to be ready and aware of all the uh, technologies and their uses, especially the ones like that we use in our work, right? So let's see. This is the most complete conceptual framework that is called TeLLE, Technology Enhanced Lifelong Learning Ecology Framework. Uh, I focused on trying to illustrate the overlap of the three learning setting, the educational settings, which is formal, non-formal, and informal. You can see this with these three colors, and I have labeled them. I also have given some examples of what places these educational settings have. For example, informal, our house, parks, and like places that are not uh, specifically educational places. Non-formal are institutions that are organized and they have the ability to have people come together, and these institutions also have the ability to facilitate some types of programs, learning, but these non-formal learning settings, they don't confer degrees, right? So it's not as structured as the formal educational settings, which follows a curriculum, they have standards, and they have accreditation processes, and thus they can confer degrees and credits and so forth. Uh, Here, I also have the orange color with the spiral of the lifelong learning component, and the purplish color in the center showing the human brain interconnections, and also the cloud interconnections to all the places. So that's the technology enhanced component of this framework. And that's the chaos that I try to translate visually to help for us to be using. I haven't read anything what you said yet, so this is gonna be a total react video, and I really appreciate your feedback, and especially if I haven't, uh, like if I'm missing anything, I'm gonna be able to see now, and you may enjoy the faces I make because they say that I make faces and I cannot hide the truth. All right, let's see. Oh, let me see. First, search filter threads by oldest. I want to see the oldest first. Okay. You don't see the initial parts of Young's personal life close to any technology in the graph, but then you see a child holding the balloon right before the online libraries and immersive museums. This made me think those may be some of the first educational experience young people experience. From there, the rest of our life, as we noticed in the previous assignment, it's full of technology. Interesting. Jack, just like disclosure, I tried to organize the pictures and labels in a way that got less cluttered because I need to have this framework published. Otherwise, it's gonna be hard to communicate my thesis in academia. Uh, Interesting. Also, the position of the different stages of our lives throughout the spiral, they were very random. But anyways, I appreciate that you were thinking like that. See, that's why I did this assignment. I need to see how people notice and consume this because it's a lot and I don't want to miscommunicate or give the wrong message at all. Oops, let's see. The next thing is three sides of the graphic. Formal, informal, format. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have been discussing a lot about that in the other topics, right? For this first unit of our course. Oh, is this a Spider-Man quote? Great power comes great responsibility. I use something, I don't know if it's biblical or whatever, but I usually remember something that goes like, if once we know, like if we have the knowledge, then we are responsible, more responsible for our acts. Because when the person doesn't know, like they were ignorant, they didn't even have that information, how can they know what they are doing or not doing is wrong, right? So with knowledge, I usually say that with knowledge we become more responsible to do like good in the world. Thanks, Jack. Let's see, Johanna. The center is the learner. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, not just school, it's throughout life. Mm-hmm. It's not linear. Yes, yes, good. Six vertices. Oh, look like the jargon. I didn't think about this when I was creating this. Okay. I did put the, just like I said before, I did put the images more so that they didn't overlap because the one on the vertices, now I'm gonna use your words, Johanna. So on the vertices, I am putting the lifelong learning, like just like I said, the lifelong learning examples, right? This is a school with a board, a teacher, and then like this is work. This is like a business, a building, like a justice building or a library. I don't know. This is fancy Greek architecture. Community centers that have people of all ages, right? So in the, I think in the other framework, the smaller one, the lifelong learning no, lifelong learning ecology, LLE. I don't have the technologies. I only focuses on the three uh, intersecting triangles. They are not intersecting at all. But anyways, thanks, Johanna. Lucy, I am very excited about that. Between the two examples are all different learnings. Mhm. Yes, see, that's exactly what I said. Structured curriculum center education we get from schools. Today are many choices thanks to technology. Traditional schools are just one option. Technology allows for blended learning digital. GPS and UL. Yeah, this is nice, right? Also allows for traveling while still taking part of learning at a different location. I just got like, I know like you are generally speaking and you are really aligned with what I had in mind, but in terms of policy and like I don't see that we will be traditional schools like the space school and like going to school will be changed anytime soon. I don't even know if people like the idea of going into 4 days of school, right? Uh, Personally, when I came to the US, I already had a different experience because school starts here at 8:30, 9, and then it goes up to early afternoon. So it kind of gets the whole day. Back in Brazil, we have the morning shift. So you can have like, for example, some grades are always taught in that shift. So, for example, sixth, seventh, eighth grade, and ninth grades, and high school, always in the morning. High school also in some places are taught at the evening shift because there are students that need to work to provide for their families, so for them not have secondary education, they are able to do their education at night. Uh, the younger ones, like uh, first grade, second, third, fourth grade, are always in the afternoon. I don't know why. Most of the place, I'm really generalizing, especially because I haven't been in the formal education in Brazil for almost 10 years. But you had 3 shifts to go to school in Brazil. And I didn't see that here yet. I don't know if I have seen that yet. So so that's why I'm telling you, like, these are very cultural and place based. Like it really depends on the needs of the place or of the community. And I mean, at a state level, at a higher organization level. And there's lots of politics because it goes together with what, like, it's prescribed by the government, right? And I think like it's we are not close to the time that schools are not going to be mandatory. Uh, I think the word school, yeah, it basic and form basic education needs to be mandatory. Everybody has the right to have access to education. I think I think it's not. I think it's the option because we don't have the option. We need to. And in places that are places including like if the parents don't put their kids in school, it's against the law, something like that, right? I'm not a parent, so I'm off of this. Anyways, let me go back. I'm sorry. Um, Look, Johanna read my mind. Represent organized, but outside of the traditional classroom. I hope you are the one revising my article when I try to publish this. I'm kidding. See, this blurring the lines is really a point that I made in my thesis. Because of the pervasiveness of technology, we cannot determine the lines where formal starts and ends, and non-formal starts and ends, and informal starts and ends. We have access to everyone whenever we want. We can talk to our friends, family members, classmates, colleagues from like judo, karate, swimming class, music class, or whatever the non-formal experiences. And that kind of blurs where those spaces start and end. And I did that with the intention of like trying to facilitate the explanation, like why is the technology disruptive? Why are the kids being distracted by the phones when they are in school? Because right? Because so we need to really triple down on teaching ourselves and our kiddos how to use technology, especially how to use mobile technology in formal educational spaces. We are really no longer confined to classroom books. Yeah, Brandy, it's overwhelming. I acknowledge that. It's crazy. This is a chaos situation, what we work with. This is new for me. You also notice that there is an evolution of the technology. Wow, let me see that. No, oh yeah, there was just like Jack, I guess, noticed that. Oh, see, this is what I would never thought about that. I didn't put the technologies examples. Maybe the maybe because if you were like this, we will die by playing video games and using extended reality technologies because the gravestone is very near. I didn't know that's not the what I wanted. Uh, so the spiral thing, ow, oh my gosh, where is that? Ah, cancel. I know I should not click. The spiral is focusing on the stages of our lives, of every human being's lives. And it does indeed, just like the ones that I read so far, it goes across for inform. We start actually at informal places because we learn since we are born and then from the environment, from people around us, when we are crawling and like taking our first steps, experimentation. So informal learning comes first. Then we have some non-formal learning when other people are introduced, for example, nannies, caretakers. So other people start interacting with us and we interact with them. Sometimes we go places, for example, daycare. I don't think it's part of formal education because daycare doesn't give. I don't think I don't know anything about that, but I don't know if a place that takes care of kids while their parents are away has a curriculum or gives credits or certificates, right? So that would be falling under the non-formal definition. And then, so the third place that we as human beings usually, the second or third, depending if the person had the ability or privilege to go to a daycare, attend a daycare, is the formal education setting. So this is also to remind us that there is no tabula rasa, that concept that a person is a blank slate, and students come to our classes knowing nothing. Everyone has a infinite wealth of information experiences from the moment they were born until uh, they get to that classroom. So we need to remind ourselves of that. That's what makes the diversity so rich and so empowering of every one of us. But no, so I need to think and consider this feedback, how things that are positioned are being thought to have some relationship with the spiral arrow. And again, this is a, how do we say that? This is a static image, everything at once. And that's how it's going to be presented in the journal. So that's a challenge for me as the author, because how do I communicate this chaos and minimize the confusion? When I was defending the thesis, I was able to present in a PowerPoint how the components came one at a time. So there was a sequence. But yeah, so thank you all so very much for joining me in this process. Oh, it was Brandy that said about the, okay. Uh, mhm. I also was reminded of that, Kathy, like when I was reviewing the mind map assignment, and I was like, oh my gosh, the reflections actually, everything that you all shared with me and with one another. I was like, this really, I think they are gonna be enjoying the framework in the discussion for because it's so much. It's so much. It's crazy. Yes, yes, yes. And if you want to talk, I can talk to you. I have noticed while I was doing research in the past 8 years that the government, the US government, also uh, helps this difficulty between informal and non-formal because uh, I needed to apply for my green card, so I needed to get into the law, and I was getting like pieces of the law to define what is an educator, what an educator is, what a technology educator is, what places the technology educator can work, and stuff like that. So when I was writing these words, I was like, oh my gosh, will the officer, the immigration officer, know what the difference is? If the educators ourselves don't know the difference, right? So what has happened, unfortunately, there is a major simplification of what the educational settings are. And just like we already answered your question, right? The difference between, I think Johanna was the one. Yes, Johanna really did a great job. She was spot on with what uh, I have shared in my thesis. So informal and informal are often clumped together because people usually make it binary. It's either formal school and credit bearing, education, or it's informal or non-formal because it's not the other, right? But when you stop to think if we are really doing inclusive and equitable, diverse education, there are lots of difference between informal education and non-formal education. And personally, what drove me to be really like bothered by the fact that informal education was often disconsidered, disregarded, is that I am a product of informal education. I am a product of formal education, of course. I was privileged enough to be able to attend school, to go to excellent federal universities in Brazil, to compete for a space in the public space, and to come to the US because of my grades, my academic achievement. But I was I was following this trend because I had lots of support. I was privileged to have the support, and I acknowledge that I'm grateful for my parents and everything else. But I'm also a product of the informal learning spaces, especially now. I learned how to become a virtual reality developer, a game designer, and I teach this at Lehigh now. I learned from YouTube videos. Like I had the sheer desire of understanding and knowing what was going on for me to be able to bring video games to education. And I needed to learn that myself. But how? And then I found the videos. And not only me, many people do that. We learn how to cook and we improve our cooking abilities by watching those TikTok videos or YouTube, Instagram shorts. That's informal learning. We are teaching and learning informally online with the digital availability of information that is in the palm of our hands with the smartphones. So there is lots of informal learning. And what my advisor, my colleague now, my advisor and I, we are striving to do with this aspect of our work is we need to raise awareness of the importance of informal learning to enhance and empower the learners for them to be more successful at formal learning environments. instead of like, let's just focus on formal and doesn't matter the rest. No, everything is important. And we may be missing a lot from that person's experience with informality, like with their social media or with their communities that they participate, whether in games or whether like just, groups, forums, or blogs, or Reddit, anything. There are many communities out there, and this is informal learning, people sharing, people learning together. We can leverage all of that into the benefit, as for towards the benefit of the learner whenever they are in the formal learning spaces. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the word, chaos. Non-formal, like the immersive museums. This is a good. Thanks, Emma. I needed to label immersive museums because part of the other component of my research thesis and my expertise is immersive learning. So I need to always be calling the attention to what type of technology I'm using. It's video games, uh, game design, and gameful design, and as instructional design, subcomponent instructional design, and extended reality technologies as the technology hardware and software that I specialized in. So that's why I put immersive museums. But the museums, like the physical museums themselves, are the epitome of non-formal learning places. The information is there, people go there, there is no structure. Even like the activities that are somewhat structured, like story time, group reading or whatever, there's no curriculum, there is no giving credits or certification. So that's the crucial element that says this is non-formal. It's an institution, it's structured, like the place, there are events, there is enough, lots of material, but it's not an institution of education that confers those the currency of education, right? The credits, the certificates, the titles, and stuff like that. Thank you, Emma. Yeah, Carly, I was trying to put the milestones like, for example, there is like our baby infancy stage, right? We learn a lot. Then when we are kids, we are playing. That's why there is the balloon. So we learn a lot at playing as well, while playing as well. Then we are at school and there is a dummy with like the thing, the gymnast. I forgot the streamer, I think. So we do exercises and sports while we are in school, stuff like that at that stage. And then we learn a lot. It changes how we are. So I try to make milestones of our human development. And it's funny because I hadn't thought about until now, thank you all for that, in this convoluted, all things considered together, that the spiral is kind of like going through and cutting across the technologies examples from the three learning environments. So I need to give some thought about that to see how I can improve the communication so that it's not misunderstood. I'm glad that you found it thought provoking. That was my intention. We need to do education literacy. There are three very clear defined learning environments, and international literature from Europe specifically they are more advanced than us here in the US and also in Canada. So there is literature in Europe and in Canada that have been working with lifelong learning. And just like I shared with you all uh, in Unit 1, UNESCO has an Institute for Lifelong Learning, and UNESCO has a like a long-term plan for lifelong learning. So there are documents, there are reports. They have been doing this work, and then we are turning the blind eye here on the US for lifelong learning? No. And here it's funny because many people say lifelong learning, but then they just say they forget about the informal learning settings because or they use informal but clumping it together with non-formal. So that's why I did this with hopes to really cause this thought-provoking reaction. Thanks, Carly, for making that clear here. Don't say, don't talk about games with me. It gets me excited. I love the game of life. But there is what I don't like about that game is because of the spinner, right? The numbers. I am terrible at rolling dice, or I always get the worst numbers and then I always lose. There, because then there is nothing I can do like skill wise to help me win. I did do this intentionally. Thanks for noticing that. And it's not only permanent disabilities. I did this also to remind us that we also become disabled throughout our lives, right? We also become disabled. We have to wear a cast in our legs because we broke a bone or whatever. So life happens. And I think this is a very long stretch, but because our legislators and policymakers like they are privileged to be mostly able like body abled just like we tend to forget that there are many people in more challenging situations, and then if we were to remind ourselves constantly that we also get disabled, whether physically or mentally disabled, like throughout life, it would be easier or more tangible for policymakers and people in power to understand that like it's not inclusion more, it's it's the status quo. It is what it is. It's us people, right? And then people would be getting what they need. Universal design, right? Like the buildings would be designed appropriately. Uh, the digital media, like instructional design, would be done thoughtfully. Video games would be created for everyone. Because, for example, this is a huge topic of researching video games literature and industry. Like, video games are very exclusive, like, they exclude the less body abled people because the controllers are growing in complexity and it makes more and more people outside. So there has been some assistive technology controllers and peripherals, but it's too little compared to the need that actually exists, right? I remember I attended a conference in California in 2018 uh, when I went to, it was when the Oculus Quest was unveiled. And then I was doing like a job, not job transition, my research. I was doing the case in Lehigh to say that we needed to adopt the Oculus headsets rather than using the other company, the HTC headsets, for us to be more successful at doing virtual reality in education. And then I attended a talk that really stuck to me because they said that the video game industry has increasingly getting better and better at putting the accessibility options for the players to choose how they will better use that interface and that game. But then the player and the speaker that was saying, who has some type of disability that don't remember, he said, or they said something like that, that inclusive design should be done as part of the whole, not as an appendix or an add-on. We add the accommodation, we add the uh, you know the options for you to be able to see the game or interact with the game. It should be by default as part of the whole game. And that was so powerful. And that reminds me of Universal Design for Learning, UDL. We need to be, whenever we are creating, we need to always remind ourselves like, am I really trying something new to take one extra step to make sure that my practice is really inclusive and like embody or tries to reach most of my audience, right? So that's I love all of these topics. This is lifelong learning, and there is so much we need to do together. So thank you for being there with me and with one another. Yeah, the mind maps also. I was just like I said before, the mind maps. I got the Hamilton because I'm an English and literature major. Like I sometimes I need to do like, hey, here, some shameless plug. Languages and literature. And we should continue trying. It's for everyone. It's for everyone. It's everyone has the right and should be able to access and experience technology to empower their lives, to improve the quality of their lives, right? So, Serban, there is a saying from, okay, I forgot. Dewey, John Dewey, education is life itself. Period. I love that. This is so powerful. So learning happens all the time. Learning is life. So this is a similar saying as Dewey said, education is life itself. Oh, nice. You are the first one who said it. Mm-hmm. I personally, I'm here. I'm the facilitator of this course, but I feel so overwhelmed. Like everybody feels like there is there time is speeding up, more technology coming. We don't have enough time to do what we have to do to level up, to be able to, so it's just like we are not in the boat anymore. I don't know if it was in this video or on the other video. We are not in the boat sailing onto the ocean of information overload. We are like doing this, struggling for our dear lives. We are dealing as we go and as it comes. So, but that's a beautiful aspect of human, the adaptability, right? We thrive when we work together, when we tap on each other's abilities and diversity, and we evolve the survival of the fittest. And the fittest nowadays is not the one who is by themselves anymore, like it was in the past, like accumulation of knowledge. I'm the master brain of science. No, we should know a little of everything so we can continue swimming forward. Thanks. This is thanks. I try to communicate that. Ah, I love that. You need to write something like we need. Let's create a citation for that because from our forum. But then you have to write it in your digital portfolio. It was a Serban, yeah. Write it in your digital portfolio because everybody can cite your website. This is it. It always felt like sci-fi future, but the future is now. And just like you said, it's just Tuesday. I love that. Yeah, I'm so happy that it was helpful to you. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, yes. Adaptability, right? Survival of the fittest. We need to problem solve. We need to make use of whatever technology we have available to help us get out of a predicament. I don't know how to pronounce this word. A difficult situation. Yes, thanks, Jared, for sharing that. Yeah, Jessica, the I think the challenge for us is that we need to be disciplined enough or even more disciplined to draw the boundaries like this is work, this is email work, and this is the email from my personal life, and this is text message from work, this is text message that I have to send and I send with my relatives and my family members, right? Because if we don't take the time to really stop, think, appreciate, acknowledge all these chaotic components, we get lost in this vortex of life. We are like going with the flow in the bad aspect of this saying. We are just being taken with the flow. We are not being agentic. We are not making conscious choices of using the technology to move forward, right? And this is like a big level, a higher level thinking, but this is what we need to like trickle down and dissolve so that we can teach this mindset in this aptitude to our students. We need to use the technology. We need to be empowered by the technology and not let the technology dictates what how we do things or how we live, or we should not be like taking technology for granted, just like Jared said here before about online safety. We need to always be thinking, am I protecting myself? Is my family safe? Is my data safe? Who is profiting from what I'm sharing here, you know? So it never ends. We all need to continue working and learning. That's why I said about drawing the boundaries ourselves. Oh, thanks for the kind words. But remember, I'm a node dog. I have been using Microsoft PowerPoint since it was invented. So, and I suck at it. I'm terrible. But for example, this setting learning goals mindset, and that comes from the history for educators. Even before I started like practicing the ISTE standards, on a daily basis and even getting more in touch with ISTE, I had this uh, wish. I saw something online, just like we were talking before. Like we learn a lot from scrolling social media and seeing the short videos that they share with tips. And I watched this video from a woman that she is excellent at Microsoft Office, and she shared this morph. Oh, my dissertation defense is here. Let me open here real quick. Uh, there is this morph button, and then she shared how to use morph in Microsoft PowerPoint to take your presentations to the next level. I was like, boom. Oh my gosh, I want to do that. I want to learn that. And that became my learning goal, my personal learning goal. And then, but I didn't have time. I was always putting off and stuff like that. And then I had this crazy complex graph, and I said, I need to learn more for even start dabbling at morph to make be able to do the presentation during the defense in a way that it's not overwhelming. Because imagine if I just did what I did with y'all, I'm sorry, put all the static image at once, game over. Everybody would tap out like, bye, no dissertation defense anymore. Let me, yeah, let me see, let me share this other piece here. So I will do so I was presenting the components, like I started with the lifelong learning ecology, but look how I used morph. This is a normal presentation, but when it goes to the other framework, the triangles move. So this morphing thing was because I watched that YouTuber. I don't recall her name, and then I was able to step by step present the ideas. So the point that I wanted to make that before the pervasiveness of technology in our lives, we still were able to see where the formal areas of learning, non-formal and informal were. And then afterwards, everything became blurred and one getting into the other space. That was chaos. And that was the technology that helped me convey this message in the presentation. So I thank that YouTuber for sharing that how to do more, how to take your presentation to the next level. And that's also an instance of alignment with the EST for educators, number two, learner, right? We should always set our learning goals. My current big learning goal is D2L. I need to master this LMS because I work with it every day. I need to do it better for you. And I just cannot conform. I will not sit down and say, oh, it is. No, I will not say it is what it is. I will fight for me, for you, and for everyone at Kutztown who is using D2L. All right, let me go back to our forum. Okay, share. Oops. Okay. Oh, am I back? My screen. I am sharing. Okay, good. And by the way, Jessica, right? Yes. I remember seeing your mind map, and your brain is like aligning very well with EST and that orange part of your mind map with the personal learning community or professional learning community. That is hot. I said that in the forum. Go and like leverage that for your discussion or for your portfolio because you are living the alignment already. Oops, let me activate my, so you know where I am. Oh, okay. So Logan, you are right. There are infinite amounts of technologies and modes of informal learning, but I wasn't able to really put everything at once. And just like I said before, I needed to emphasize the immersive media or immersive learning spaces that exist already and is part of this emergent technology wave that we are living currently. But informal learning literally is everything that we learn by ourselves. Even playing, we play with our friends. We make jokes or whatever. We go out, put to play soccer in the street, whatever. Informal learning, because there are skills happening. We are interacting with other people, different people from ourselves, different reactions, sometimes different first languages, right? So those questions, silly question, there is no such a thing as silly question. Informal learning. We learn by living. So living is informal learning. As long like if we are not, for example, now we are in in a formal learning environment, empowered by online technologies because we are doing asynchronous learning in virtual learning, like it's distance education at its prime. Like we are each one in our houses, in different places, at different times, but we are having a discussion, a very high level discussion about things that are like important to life and important to our work, right? But how does informal learning take place? We said that many times. The videos that you watch on YouTube or any social media that you follow, people are sharing ideas, opinions. You are using your uh, judgment skills to determine whether those are uh, reliable or not, if they have bad intention or good intention, you know? So the more we consume information and we interact with other people, we create things, it's informal learning. Uh, and because I always need to do the shameless plug, when we are playing video games for fun, for like enjoyment, we are also learning informally, right? Uh, for when, for example, I'm gonna pull you into my shameless plug. I graduated this year from Lehigh, and then before the commencement ceremony on Saturday, on a Friday afternoon, there was uh, cheers, a collective, all the grad students from Lehigh from this year. They went there with their family members and stuff. And you know what it happened, and I was like, oh. Towards the end of the event, after the president and the provost have spoken, they played like an instrumental orchestra of the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time Hyrule Field theme song, and it was so classical, and I was the only one, I think, or maybe others were like, oh my gosh, this is Zelda, and that was like, oh. And how could I had ever been able to know that that was from Zelda, like a video game, if I hadn't learned informally when I was like 25, 30 years younger, when I was playing Zelda in my room. So informal learning is the real deal. Everyone is learning. And that's why I said before, we need to learn, or we need to figure out how to leverage all this amount of informal learning that is happening all the time, and we make sure that we are empowering our learners because of their experiences outside the classroom, so that when they are with us in the classroom, whether it's virtual or physical classrooms, they are going to be feeling empowered and valued, and like they will like, I'm smart because I know this, you know, and they will be motivated, self-motivated to do more or to take a risk that you propose in your challenging project, for example. Carissa, just a friendly reminder for all of us. I wasn't able to put all the technologies. It wasn't my, I just put one, two examples, I guess, right? Two or three examples of technologies that are commonly found on formal environments, informal environments, and non-formal environments. But they are everywhere and they overlap and they are used for formal, informal, non-formal uses and so on. I'm sorry for this scrolling. Yay, Samantha, you got it. I took inspiration from when I was creating the how do you say, like, the framework back in the day, like 2 or 3 years ago. I started I started with a Venn diagram, but a triple Venn diagram. But then it was very hard for me to be able to put all the pieces with all those circles and those intersections of the Venn diagram and stuff like that. And it also was really taking me to the Ikigai thing. I said, my, I cannot distract my audience. Oh, the Ikigai is even more complex. It's four overlapping circles. So I said, I cannot. And then I said, okay, what about if I simplify from a circle? I tried squares, but it was not nice. And then the triangles. It started like three triangles, but then it felt incomplete. And I said, like, but I still need to use this white space. And then when I put like a little bit more next to the main triangles, it became Google Drive. And I loved it. You know why? Because it also, like, you got the Easter egg, the hidden message from my conceptual framework. I am so happy. So it helps remind us that of the cloud-based computing and the cloud-based management that dictates our lives. I'm sure all of us here has data or important documents stored in a cloud, whether it's from Google, whether it's from OneDrive, Microsoft, whether it's Dropbox or whatever. And like, I'm not gonna say anything else, but there is another Easter egg behind this visual. So I'm gonna wait and see if you would like to take on this challenge or if anyone else has figured it out. But thanks. I love that you opened your message with this. Okay. Yeah, just like I think somebody also said that they noticed the evolution of the technology. Maybe Brandy, I don't recall. But thank you for that. I didn't do that intentionally, so that's not nice. So you haven't thought of smart homes, but many other people have. I don't know if you have been like following the forums. And even here, I think the first person who started the conversation about learning informally how to adjust our thermostats, like the houses have been increasingly becoming smarter because we have tools, digital tools that are connected to cloud-based services and now AI powered or voice commands. And the thermostat is one of them. Our doorbells became another of them. Some people have those Roomba robots to sweep the floor. That's beautiful. Like, we don't have to be sweeping the floor anymore, and the robot does the job and goes back and empties itself, and then you can program on your phone. That's beautiful technology. It helps us level up and not use that time doing like repetitive, boring chores. And we use our time and our energy to do what we are good at, being creative and helping one another, right? So, coding gems. A jam is an event that is organized for people with the same interest to go, and they are given a challenge, and they have a specific amount of time to figure it out or be able to do something. So they have some examples are coding dojos. So they put those very good programmers or people that are very enthusiastic about programming, about in a certain language, programming language. And it's like, okay, so this is a problem. Try to solve this problem in 1 hour or in 5 hours. And then everybody starts like crazy, like collaborating and thinking and trying to create something new. So this is a coding jam. There is a variation, which is from my area, which is game jam. A game jam is for game developers that they are they go to get together and they are given a prompt or a challenge. And some of the most helpful and I love these examples are the Games for Change. It's an organization that um, organizes and challenges game creators to use their abilities or level up by collaborating with one another in teams or individually to create games that teach social skills or that teach skills that will help us be empowered to heal the world or like the games that teach difficult skills, soft skills, and like life skills. So that's why the organization is called Games for Change, like for the number four. Uh, anyways, they are, I think they are a byproduct of boot camps because, for example, the boot camp is an idea that comes from the army, right? Like they get together to exercise and get stronger and also learn what they have to learn, like the commands and stuff. So and then they got the idea of boot camps, and then there is a boot camp for like leadership. So everybody with the same idea that wants to improve their leadership skills stay together, and there is a facilitator who helps them. So yeah, that's how education and lifelong learning change and evolve. Like it's a modality now, but then it's part of the non-formal um, triangle because we don't see jams or boot camps so often in formal education, unfortunately. I was able to publish my very first article like in 2022 after I joined a writing boot camp that took an entire weekend. So we were isolated at the Ayacoca Hall Tower at Lehigh University the entire weekend. And like the first day, I was like, I'm going to study all the statistics and methods that I need to make sure that I'm doing what I need to do. And then by the end of the day, before I wrap up, I'm gonna to do an outline of what I'm gonna be writing and organizing. And then on the following day, I wrote the article and I got it published in 2 months. I'm 100% sure that I would never have been able to do that if I hadn't participated in that writing boot camp, because the fact that many other peers were together with the same energy and mindset of accomplishing a bigger, similar goal, it's magical. So I'm very grateful for that boot camp and Dr. Yvonne Lee from Lehigh University who facilitate that session. And she still does. They are amazing. And I hope more people do those types of boot camps. Informal. In formal educational environments, not informal, informal. Technology can be listened to by anyone from newborns to elderly. Yes. There is more to this piece, but I'm not gonna be talking more. Otherwise, this is gonna be one of those 3-hour videos that I usually do. Good. This was totally not kind of, this was totally unplanned. This has emerged and it's so cool that this new discussion forum from my conceptual framework and the mind map have aligned. And it's like you are recalling your own experience of reflecting on your relationship with technology on a daily basis with the framework. So this, I'm happy. I'm so happy about that. Thank you, everyone. Wait, wait, Hannah, I need to reread that. By being dragged along, right? Yes, I think so. But at the same time, it makes sense the word drug because especially nowadays, with after 20 years of like these, 21st century skills and stuff, like 21st century living, integrated learning, lots of digital devices, the technology is addictive as drugs as well, including for ourselves. We usually talk about that. We talked about that in forums about the scrolling of doom, or like we are being more mindful about how many screen hours we have, So, and then when we were talking about that, I was when I was about the creating the accounts before we are legally supposed to. That's also true. And then I was connecting to the drug. I was like, oh my gosh, we are not doing a good job yet with like enforcing the correct use of technology with the kiddos, right? Uh, it's a big challenge. That's why we are here together. We need to figure this out. We need to continue fighting and learning and studying and sharing so that we can improve. Wow, this is new for me. I totally didn't think about that. However, I left the arrow open, right? I left the arrow open. Oh, wait. Oh, I'm going to improve this picture. So I think, oh no, wait. The arrow is just about the lifelong perspective, trajectory. So it's from we are born, since we are born until we die. But what you noticed, it's true. There, I didn't do that on purpose, and I didn't do that at all. But you perceive that, so maybe it's communicating. That there is a sense of openness, what's coming up, right? And the good thing about this being after it's published is that anyone will be able to tweak and address. Anyone who works and does research, they will be able to get that and do like a similar situation, a similar framework, but instead of the immersive technologies, the AI, right, technologies. And thanks, Hannah, for that. That was very insightful for me. Look, this is it, Alex. I told this non-formal, like shared experiences with others. Remember when I was saying earlier about when we start in informal learning and then we often get to non-formal learning when other people are introduced to the kids' life, when the parents need to return to work and sometimes they need to find other people that will be able to extend that care to their children. So sometimes the daycares fulfill this role, but sometimes the nannies or the caretakers, they come to the parents' house to stay with the kids. And that's, although it's home, we are introducing a foreign element, like other people, other cultures, other ways of doing things into the person's life. So the non-formality of learning starts because these people come from different places, different instruction institutions or companies or places like that. I like that you finish on a good note because although this is my material of work and research, I oftentimes feel overwhelmed, just like everybody does. But look, overwhelmed again. But that's our life, right? And that's what we work with. So, oh, Jen, this is not specifically about my interest. The only thing that is about my interest is that I needed to tailor the technological examples or places with immersive learning, right? That's why there is immersive museums, coding jams and stuff like that. But the description you wrote here, which is very correct here, some structure when learning. This term, some structure defines non-formal environments per se. You got it. There is some structure. It's usually from an institution, whether it's an education institution or not. Uh, but it allows learning to take place because there is some organization, right? That's it. Oh, I think what you're saying. Oh, maybe this you are saying you generalizing you as you everyone. Oh, okay, yes. This yes. Because we go to non-formal places that fulfill our needs and wishes. For example, I would be I like to like go on scavenger hunts here in the Lehigh Valley to find what libraries are already lending video games as instructional media. I also go to nature centers and museums because they have become my partners in this lifelong learning with video games, right? So, and I see there, for example, when I'm at the nature centers, people that go to the nature centers, they go because of their interests, right? They are interested in that topic, that motivates them. And that's the second hook for that strategy that my advisor and I have been working on. We are trying to bring the immersive media and technology and video games technology to non-formal and informal learning spaces to make sure that people of all ages can level up and get access to quality information, quality research-based, universally designed materials for them to be able to learn about their places that they live, that they were born in, or like environmental issues, industrial issues. Uh, and then, even if they are not part of the formal education system anymore, or if they are still part of the education system. For example, kids are taken to these non-formal places on field trips. And then when they get there, the educational partners, the educational directors, they say, hey, there is this video game that was developed by Dr. Junior and Dr. Bodzing and their students at Lehigh University. And then the kids play and they are empowered because they were at the non-formal place and they come back to the formal place when they get back to their classrooms. So just like I said, that we try to leverage what we do and obtain in the informal learning places, this is also true to the non-formal learning places. Yes, you are totally right. Yes, yes, yes. I just said that. Yes, you got it. We are synced, girl. Thank you. And just to remind yourselves, this was a must post first form, so no one could see what the other wrote until they posted first. So everyone here is being very authentic and gen, uh, uh, genuine when they are sharing their interpretations, and it's all aligning. So I'm happy because this experiment is going well. The framework, although it's overwhelming, it's not miscommunicating things within this field of information and education technology, which is the audience that I'm going to be publishing for. Because if I were to put this crazy infographic, like anywhere else, people are like, oh, what's going on here? Like, it's hard, right? It's a lot of information. Just like we don't consume things from other areas because we wouldn't understand anything. What do you mean by this, Sarah? There are some points I make that I can pick apart if you ask me to. I would like to know everything. Let me know. Send me a text on Teams. Because this, if you have feedback I can improve the framework before it's published. This is called picking one another's brains. No, wait, no. I didn't organize that based on introductions to technology. It's the opposite. Technology is already everywhere. And because as we grow and experience life, we pass through different locations, like there are formal, non-formal, and informal. We have access to all these technologies. So what the thing that I'm trying to make here is learning is for everyone, regardless of age, of ability, of anything, and it should be accessible. People should access that anywhere they are. However, this could be a nice idea for reorganizing or making a spin-off of this graph to organize what types of technologies should be introduced at certain stages of one's life and whenever they are in specific learning environments. For example, when they are in formal learning environments, what technology should a person be exploring or getting better at? Or when they are in informal places such as like at home, what should be they using? What should they be using? Or what they usually use? And what should they know about that technology, just like the smart homes and things like that. And also based on this thing that you said, Sarah, it could also be used for about like introduction or even like enforcing types of or levels of technology according to one's age level. For example, I hate it when people I mean, not hate like being a hater. I profoundly dislike when people tell older people that they don't belong or it's not for them, because this has been repeated so much that even the older participants of my research or older people that I interact with, even older students of mine, they have that ingrained bias, but that came from outside and they unconsciously accepted. I'm old, I cannot do that. And I hate this. And I hope that this framework and all of us with our work of on lifelong learning, we can help deconstruct that and reconstruct learning as a lifelong process, and that technology and access to good information is for everyone, right? Whether it's like on an iPad, on a smartphone, on a computer, on a video game, it doesn't matter. On virtual reality headsets, it doesn't matter, right? So uh, going back to what you were saying, if we were to use this framework or a modification of this framework just to recommend what types of technology should be introduced, it would be great to be reinforcing the idea that it's very healthy for elderly people to use headsets uh, every now and then, because they can experience things from the past. It generates like good emotions. They also can be playing games, simpler puzzle games that will be like helping them with like stimulating their cognitive systems and sensory perception systems. So I am totally oversimplifying here. The amount of literature on old or elderly uh, benefits of use of technology is immense already. So I'm overly simplifying that. But Sarah, send me a message with this piece, the points that you can make if you were to pick apart. So Jen, these are stages throughout person's life and they overlap because we are part of these places like all together or sometimes only informal, sometimes informal and informal. We will always have the informal piece because learning happens at home, right? All the time. And outside home as well, on the street and outside school. But non-formal and formal, it depends whether you are going to community organizations or other types of institutions of somewhat organized instruction materials and events, or if you are going to formal education events or spaces. So this is the same that I had a feeling with the other person before that I don't remember. I said your. I said, oh my gosh, it's not me. But your, when you say like generally speaking, English language with this your that is singular and plural, really and generic, really makes it uh, confusing sometimes. Mhm. So this reading and interpretation of Jennifer is from for us who are able, and I think it's a privilege. I am very happy that I was able before the transition of the century, because we were able to live life before and be raised like it was, and then be introduced to the technology advances little by little. But now we have our own kids and our students that were born and raised with the pervasive technology. And like how the way that this younger generation thinks and behaves is dictated by this very fact. But then we are still the adults who they look up to or they come for mentorship and stuff. So there is this, you know, disconnect. We are not at the last point of the grade. Yes, we are not. No, please. But we will, everyone will be. Actually, extended reality is already our present, and it's becoming the past. So I need to create a mini lecture about extended reality now for Unit 3 that we are experiencing in our course, because what has happened is that extended reality technologies are becoming transparent. People are not noticing that they are different technologies because they have always been there. Like the kids, like, oh, this is a smart glass, or like, oh, this is AR. This is extended reality. So again, and then what happens is like new types of digital literacy, which XR, extended reality literacy, is a subset of. Just like AI literacy is a new type of literacy, because it is extremely necessary for us to be literate, like able to understand and consume information and create information, but like ethically, with knowledgeably, well informedly. I don't know if these words work, but anyways. You are very close, and I love using. I haven't used MapQuest because I don't know. When I started driving, I was GPSs was where I was driving like third, wait, 14 years ago, and I was in Brazil. So GPSs were already a thing. I had my Android phone, so I was being a millennial puts you more yet in this weird transition. But I do teach my undergraduate students about how I got lost in Europe. Like the first time I went to Europe, like, and I didn't take my cell phone with me, and there was no. And then I was with a paper map, and then I found a hotel like in the middle of the night, and I was like, "Can you point here in this map where I am?" And he said, "I'm sorry, sir, but you are not even in this map." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm lost." So people don't know the struggle that it was to, oh, Zoom is thinking that I'm raising my hand. I'm not raising my hand. Stop. People here, like it was a struggle to be able to go by, and like that was part of the non-global world, like non-globalized world. Life was slower because it took more effort for us to communicate. We needed time to wait for the information to get to us. And for us to go places, it took more planning, just like the paper maps and afterwards the map quests. And it took also more interpersonal skills because we really depended on asking for directions, which is a language skill that I used to teach a lot when I taught English in Brazil. But then when I think about it nowadays for the Gen Z, like that is learning a foreign language, why do I need to ask information to anyone on the street if I have my phone and say, hey, Google, how do I do to get from here to such place? And then there's Google telling me step by step. And then I can also use augmented reality, which is extended reality. And then I put the in Google Maps, and then I use my camera. I see an arrow pointing where I should go, where I should turn. It's beautiful. I love technology because of that. But then for us who are able to transition and experience both sides, like, oh my gosh, it's good, but it's bad because, for example, these kids, like our kids nowadays and our students, they are missing out on so much interpersonal skill training, just like asking for directions and giving directions, right? As a function of language for communication, because the devices and the AI and the computers and the algorithms, they can do it as well as we do because we programmed them to be as good as like in performing these repetitive functionalities as we would do back in the day. See, that's why I am excited about this, but then I get kind of sad. But it's the constant paradox irony of this meta modern time. It's beautiful, it's excellent to have advancements, but then there's so many trade-offs and things that we have to consider. Yay! Ellison got the piece of informal learning that I wanted to have. Like we start learning at the very last weeks of gestation when like remember, have you ever heard of that or all of you who are moms already, that if we talk to our kids, like we tell stories, and if the parents and people around, like they react, they can recognize, and there is increasing like literature uh showing that there is a real impact on the babies, uh, like towards the the late periods of gestation, which like trimester, right? Trimesters. The third trimester, 9 months. So the third trimester, the baby starts like developing sensory perceptions. So I, Junior, think that learning is taking place right there already before we are even born. Uh, but I didn't want to make this very clear in my framework because I don't want to spark any political conversation whatsoever. I'm not a politician. I'm a researcher. I'm a video gamer. I'm a lifelong learner. And I just want to raise awareness that learning happens all the time since we are like already moving and like inside our mom's bellies until we get to that gravestone. Or unfortunately, we also learn with the passing of our loved ones because grief and losing people around us is such a hard experience, and it's like the hardest level of the game of life. How to cope, like how to fulfill that place is really hard, and that is not taught in school. So that's lifelong learning. And even that, gee, life is hard, right? That's why I like to use the framework of game. Like we level up every day in our, like every time we get older, one more year, it's one more level. Like it's been 365 or 366 days of experiences and exchanging information and being bombarded by sensory stimuli and getting to know other people and feeling things and dealing with these feelings. It's a lot, but we can do it because we are human beings. We are the most intelligent animal out there. We are still animals. I wonder if we're gonna evolve like a Pokemon into higher beings. Not in this lifetime, though, actually. Of course not. Okay. Thanks, Alison, for highlighting this piece. See exactly what I said, like learning to manage more responsibility, learning to handle feelings at different stages of our lives or at different uh, situations that happen, just like the passing of a loved one. Again, another connection with the mind map. Oh, wait, like a map of the mind word technology. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yay! So this is it. I am so happy that you enjoy, like you joined me in this conversation. Uh, I got the feedback from you. Like, I'm expecting Sarah, if she has some more feedbacks, to tell me that maybe I should improve. But overall, it's not that bad. I think I'm gonna be able to submit it to publication without being overly criticized. Like, don't understand what you're trying to say here, because the peers that will be reviewing my article are also from education technology, just like all of you. So yeah, good. Thank you so much. And I'm so happy about this emergent uh, takeaway that everyone, including myself, when we were doing and I was revising your mind maps, technology and me mind map, you it reminded you of that activity when you were analyzing this infographic, this conceptual framework. So I hope this video is not so long, like 3 hours, 2 hours, maybe 1 hour and 15 minutes. But anyways, you can always and you should always speed it up 2 times faster or more. If you download the video, I think you can do that. Anyways, thank you so much. See you soon. Bye.